You know, so one of the things that goes on about trying to get shape to work is stimulating the part of the body that actually has trauma to it. And most of these chemicals from the high processed foods are actually blocking receptors, like I talked about the iodine a little while ago. So the hypothalamus is actually right here, a little spot in the brain. And one thing it does is it actually controls the pituitary, the thyroid, the adrenals, the sex hormones, and if it's not, they all have to relate back and forth, and they get chemical and neurological messages. And if that starts actually interfering with each other, that's what happens to happen. So one thing I always tell everybody is, I can remember my medical boards. It was kind of funny because if you didn't know the answer and hypothalamus was on there, just guess that, because it controlled so much. So yeah, so as you can see now, this is a little more detailed hypothalamus, but you come over here and here's a little society center. So we've all had that experience, you know, you just want to eat, but you're not getting full. Well, that's something to do, could be something to do with hypothalamus. Okay, same thing with GI tract, and this is very important too because, you know, the GI tract, leaky gut, leaky brain, inflammation, has to process by the liver, the kidney, the skin. So like acne is a sign of leaky gut, rashes, psoriasis, eczema, all that stuff. Shivering, hot and cold. You know, so when you look at it, water, best balance, and stress. You know, well, this is also part of the adrenals, which signals come here. So when everything starts getting out of whack, you know, you have to really try to stimulate it, not shut it down, and that's what a lot of prescriptions actually do, is block receptors and shut down. Helps. Here's some of the blood pressure regulation modules of the hypothalamus, body temperature. So you can see where it all comes into play with when you come into the hypothalamus. So that's what shape does. It actually helps stimulate some of that, and the foods you eat actually help clean out some of the GI tract and allows it to heal. And what's really neat about it is that's where you need the nutrients to heal, is from the food that you're eating. And that's why it's based on the real foods. And you gotta start paying attention, because if the bug don't want it, why do we want it? You know, we're eating a lot of foods that are pesticide ridden, which most of those pesticides are designed to give the bug leaky gut. And you know, it's getting leaky gut from just a few bites. Well, we're eating tons of that.
So gross.
It is.
I just want you to know.
It is.
Leaky gut.
Yeah, and so you get the tight junctions in the GI tract, and what they do is they spread apart, shrink down, and retract, and it leaches into the blood. And that's
Which
why
causes autoimmune.
Autoimmune, yeah. And so the body starts attacking itself. So it's not just a program to stimulate this. There's actually some stuff to stimulate the thyroid and adrenals, if I'm not mistaken. But it's to help rebalance the body. But you'll see how important food really is on rebuilding your life. So, and of course the biological clock, we'd all like to feel a little younger, wouldn't we? And you think about it, well, let's stimulate, get that going, because this inflammation that we're doing is really just aging us a lot faster. And to give an example is, some of you know this, some don't. I spent 10 years in and out of the hospital, about 3 days a week. I was told I'd be lucky to live past 25. I had the highest levels of lead ever recorded, according to the University of Michigan. And I remember I was 20 years old, and I was told I was a 20-year-old in an 80-year-old body. And I'm like, really? Well, thank you. You know, so I mean, but what could they do about it? Nothing. I didn't need drugs, and I was on plenty of them. And I'm not bashing the MDs, because they were doing their best, and their thought was for me. You know, but a lot of the training, they're spending so much time learning about drugs that they're not really learning. They're forgetting how to heal sometimes. And I didn't have a drug shortage. I needed to get rid of the toxins that were built up in my body. And, you know, drugs weren't doing it, but I was on, I think, what, 15, 16 different drugs. And I was in pretty bad shape. Had 2 surgeries from side effects of medications. And, you know, that's why I went to chiropractic, because I thought if my case was managed properly, I may have only wasted a year or 2. So, anyways, yeah, so any questions about the hypothalamus or the other organs that we try to stimulate?
So does one of these have to do with fatigue and such?
Well, this here, the stress one, goes to the adrenals. In my opinion, now they all kind of relate, because you know, even blood pressure, everything, shivering, you know, it all works as a package. But your fatigue usually comes from either not absorbing your nutrients, either or and. But you really, it's adrenals. And what a lot of people don't understand is why they're always tired. Then you notice that tired people are always the slow healers. Well, one of the biggest nutrients for the adrenals is vitamin C. And it's not what the government says is vitamin C. They call it absorbic acid, which is just the outer shell. And everything in the middle is what is really needed. But yeah, so that's why most people get tired, but how do you feed it if you're not absorbing? So that's another question. That's why the doctors who actually came up with the program wants a physician monitor, because there's sometimes you need those questions answered. Sometimes people do real good, but you need to feed all those organs, and the adrenal sends a signal up through here. So if you're in a high stress job or trauma, auto accidents are very common for that. You get a trauma, and people don't realize it, but whiplash, for an example, your head goes about 6 feet within a third of a second. So in that time, you think the thyroid took any damage? But the thyroid damage never shows up for 6-8 months because it has enough nutrients stored for that time period. And then later on, the whiplash, you know, they're like, oh, wait a minute, it had nothing to do with the accident, you're fine. Why is it low? And so when it sends a signal down to the adrenals, it starts wondering why is it not responding? Well, you just spent the last 6 months healing. And you've used a lot of that C content to rebuild the collagen, the scar tissues, and now you're tired. So, did I answer your
I
question?
think so. No, probably have more questions.
And I'm sorry if I don't answer it clear enough, please keep me on track. Any other questions?